Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Adam Bergman's Money Makers, where we talk everything personal finance as it relates to your own personal journey for financial independence. What's happening right now is we have a recession. We are currently in the midst of a recession. Whether it's announced or not, this is the second negative quarter of GDP, but you're only going to get the results next quarter. 2 negative GDP quarters means that we're in a recession. And you could see that we're in a recession. Besides, for a crazy recession, everything is inflated. All the prices are super expensive. Check the basic items. You can tell how everything is expensive when you look at bread, milk, and egg prices. Those are the 3 basic necessities. I'm not even going to talk about toilet paper because it's nearly impossible to find it. That's a joke if you've been around during Corona going crazy. Today I wanted to explain something called the wage spiral. I've spoken about it before. You see, on this channel, besides for just covering stocks, just covering crypto, just covering real estate, whatever, I like to actually cover the economy, the micro and macro economy. It's extremely important to understand what is going on and why it's going on. And if you can do this, maybe you could preemptively predict something that might happen in the future. There's a bear market every 10 years or so. And if you could understand what's causing a bear market, maybe in the next one, in a decade from now, we can be better well prepared. This includes me and everybody else listening right now to deal with a bear market. Maybe have the ability to put some money aside and not spend everything so that you could buy up on these cheap dips. A wage spiral is pretty simple. A wage spiral means I'm an employee. I work for an employer. I, as employee, is asking for more money from an employer because everything is so expensive around me due to the 8.5% inflation. So I come up to my employer, me, Adam, I come up to my employer in Walmart and I say, hey, can I please get a 8% raise? The employer, Walmart, says, sure, Adam, no problem. Here's your 8% raise. Now you can pay for stuff that's inflated, no problem. Walmart then in turn charges 8 point something or 9% for the goods that they now sell. Why? They're not just gonna raise the prices based on the amount that they're paying you. They're gonna raise the prices plus X. What that plus X means, I don't know exact numbers, and everyone is different, every company is different, every situation is different. But they're always gonna raise their prices by the amount that they're giving the raises for plus some. When they raise the prices, what happens is it's no longer an 8% inflation, it's inflated 8% plus some. In turn, the employees are now buying up these eggs, this bread, this milk, but now instead of it being $1.08, it now becomes $1.10, for example. They then come back to their employer a year later and say, hey, inflation's now 10% and I need another 1.5% raise or 2% raise or whatever the number is. The employer says, no problem. I will give you this raise. And when they give you this raise, guess what happens? Again, all the goods go up. Cost of services goes up. Cost of living goes up. So now you as an employee or a regular citizen needs to now have more money. And then you go back and it's a vicious circle. And that's what a wage spiral is. In today's video, I wanted to give you a perfect example of that. I was reading an article from Wall Street Journal, and it's talking about how nurses are asking for more money. They're asking for a pay increase because during Corona, they weren't really getting pay increases. And in turn, the insurance companies, they don't want to cover the raised fees that the hospital is trying to charge in order to cover the fees of the raises the nurses are asking for. So now nurses are asking for a raise. The hospital is trying to give them the raise, but in order to do that, they must raise the cost of medicine, the cost of medical treatment. And by raising the cost of medical treatment, guess what happens? The insurance company needs to now raise their premiums. And guess what happens? Those same nurses that just got a raise need to pay the same equivalent for their health insurance. Now I'm giving you a very small closed group and very small closed example, but you see where this is going. Now multiply what I said by 1 million people, 10 million people, 100 million people that are working in the United States. Let me read this article and maybe it's gonna make a little bit more sense. It's very, very important that you understand the way the economy works. I'm self-taught. I wasn't learning this in school. I did go to business school, but you don't really learn anything in business school. I'm a geek that really likes to read stuff like this, and I'm absolutely fascinated by this type of education, this type of knowledge, this type of data, and this type of information. And it's my privilege to give this to you guys, the viewers of Adam Bergman's Moneymakers. The article reads, hospitals look to raise treatment costs as nurses' salaries increase. Health insurance and employers are pushing back against requests to increase hospitals' prices by as much as 15%. You want a raise? We need the money. We'll give you the raise, but we're going to increase our fees. But if we increase our fees, a third party also must increase their fees to pay out for the fees that we're increasing. And if the third party increases the fees, well then the people that just got the raise must pay those fees when dealing in that third party. And this is the wage spiral. It's a never-ending cycle and it's super nasty. And that's why we have a recession. And that's why we have crazy inflation. It just never stops. And the prices never go back to the point where it was before inflation. You understand? If the prices went up 100%, they might reduce it 50%, but it's always going to be that certain amount higher. Some hospitals grappling with rising nurse salaries are seeking to raise prices by up to 15%, touching off contract fights with health insurers and businesses and threatening higher premiums. HCA Healthcare Incorporated and Universal Health Services are among the hospitals asking health plans to pay them more for care to offset mounting nurse costs. Neither of the chains would specify the price increases they are requesting, but people familiar with negotiations say some hospitals are asking to increase their prices by 7.5% to 15%. The requests are more than the 4 to 6% price increases that hospitals typically seek, according to employers and insurers. The hospital usually won an average of 3% increases in recent years. If hospitals win heftier price increases they are seeking this year, that would likely result in higher premiums for employers and workers. But insurer and employer groups, which push for lower cost contracts to negotiate them on behalf of coalitions and businesses, are rejecting the request. The groups say that the priciest hospitals can absorb higher labor costs without raising their rates. And I quote, most of the employers have been unable to increase wages of their workers for years, primarily because of the increasing cost of healthcare, said Chief Executive of Employers Coalition Florida Alliance for Healthcare Value, Karen Van Kullel. What an interesting name. The priciest hospitals are paid more than 5 times the rates paid by Medicare, the federal health insurer program that sets prices to cover hospital costs, says Elizabeth Mitchell, CEO of Purchaser Businesses Group on Health. How is this justifiable, she says? The Purchasers Business Group represents 40 private, public, employee, and health insurance exchanges across the U.S. As of March, average yearly base pay for hospital nurses has reached $86,674, up 90% from $79,172 in June 2021, when the Delta variant took hold in the U.S., according to Premier Incorporated. This analyzed about 116,000 nurses. That was the sample size. And I quote, if payers are unable to give us sufficient rate increases to a minimum of sort to absorb at least a portion of this inflation, and particularly the labor inflation, I think we're willing to cancel contracts. Listen to what I just read. If payers are unable to give us sufficient rate increases, at a minimum to absorb the inflation. You understand? This is the way it works. What came first, the chicken or an egg? It's a very nasty cycle. And in response, the insurance company, and I quote, says, it looks to us like we're overpaying to begin with, she says. We're not inclined to just roll with the request for higher prices because of current inflationary pressure. Guys, this is the way microeconomics works and the way microeconomics affects macroeconomics, because this then trickles out. 1 person, 2 persons, million, 10 million, 100 million, as I said. And that's why prices just keep going up and up and up. Now you're going to say, Adam, what the heck does nursing have to do with me? But think about it. This is just one beautiful example that I found an article in Wall Street Journal. By the way, shout out to me. I pay for Wall Street Journal, Seeking Alpha, Barron's, and Bloomberg, among other publications, so you guys don't have to. I spend hundreds of dollars a month just to get these articles. And sometimes I get some awesome articles, and it makes paying for these publications so worth it that I can bring you articles like this. I hope this explains to you the way the economy works, and I really do hope that you appreciate these type of videos. It's very easy to read an article about a stock and say to the moon or this is crashing. It's very easy to regurgitate things. It's very hard to try to explain complex economical issues to an audience that's expecting something else. But I promise you, this is just as important as anything else you will ever see on YouTube, because it's super important to understand the way our economy works, not just for today, but for the future. When you do make millions and millions of dollars, blessings, it's very important to be able to keep those millions and millions of dollars. And one of the best ways of keeping the millions and millions of dollars is to understand what's going to happen with the economy when you get little hints, bits, and pieces, basically like what's happening right now. If people were paying attention and people were planning for this, well, then they're okay. And the people that failed to plan, planned to fail. Thank you so much. Likes, shares, subscribe. Channel's at 608 subscribers. You guys are absolutely fabulous. I love you all 100 times. Have a great day.